From MTN Sports, welcome to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Grizzly Insider here on the Montana Television Network. Alongside the voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen, and we're your hosts as the Montana Grizzlies come off a 30-14 loss to UC Davis in a top 8 matchup on Saturday. And Riley, kind of 10,000-foot view once again, tough loss for the Grizzlies, right? And a tough pill to swallow as, you know, some moments, but all in all, we're seeing why Davis is a Big Sky contender.
Absolutely, and give all credit to Davis. 19 returning starters, first-year head coach. They had that mojo, Kyle, and we've been doing this long enough that you can feel when teams just have that it factor. And UC Davis, they're in the middle of a special season, and now they have set up a Big Sky championship game, which we'll get into later on in the show. But the bigger picture view for Montana, this is devastating. There's nothing to try and mask that at all. They were gearing up for this game for a couple of weeks. Ever since the homecoming win against Northern Arizona, Grizz went into their bye. They were feeling better about themselves. Going to play 2 road games against inferior opponents, you were gearing up for UC Davis. There's no question about it. This was your chance to get back into the Big Sky championship picture, national seeds, all of that. And it came to a crashing halt. UC Davis played very well. I think Montana, unfortunately, ran into a better team, but they still had plenty of opportunities, which we're going to get into. First half, second half, all the way throughout. Crowd wanted to help them out, which we'll also get into, but it just didn't have all the ingredients.
Definitely a game that was circled for a long time leading into this one, and definitely lived up to the hype, especially early on. As you mentioned, the crowd fully invested, fully into it, felt like a playoff game, especially here in November. And really, you start the game off for the Grizzlies, couldn't have been any better. Only allowed 15 yards in that first defensive drive, forced the punt, and then offensively, they were humming. Logan 5, 4 for 4, big run and touchdown right off the bat.
Perfect start. Not only that, UC Davis gets the ball first. This explosive offense that wants to go fast. Force the punt. First off, that's massive. Then the Grizzlies, everything they wanted from an offensive side of things to score. And then a drop on the second possession. Then they just couldn't get in rhythm at all when it comes to their offense and running the football. UC Davis up front was just massive in the game, and I think up front, usually these championship-type games, it's a battle of who can win the trenches, and certainly Davis flexed their muscles there.
100%, and a lot of talk coming into the game was Davis's offense, but man, their defense, as real as it gets, holding Montana 6 for 16 on third down, 0 for 3 on fourth down, and those were key, especially for the Grizzlies. And you look at kind of like that late second quarter, momentum halting a little bit. Rex Connors gets that interception, and it kind of bled into the second half a little bit. Even after Kali'i Ayat gets that touchdown, and then Riley Wilson gets the ensuing sack, there's all this momentum, but from there, Davis responded with a touchdown, and it felt like they just halted any momentum chances, and then just the moment did not face them.
Well put, and I think that every time UC Davis got hit in the mouth, they were able to respond. Every time Montana did, they weren't able to get off of the mat. And I think that even back to that sack when UC Davis had a 7-yard loss, Lan Larison, 15-yard gain on a hurdle that's going to probably make the highlight reels. They just did all the little things well. And then the turnover battle. You have to go to the turnover battle again. Montana, advantageous the last couple of games. You lose the turnover battle 2-0. I thought the defense held up for the most part, Kyle. They did a really good job against a tough UC Davis squad. It was just the offense. And I think what's wild is just the shift in identity for this team from the first half of the season to now the last 4 games to where the offense is the one that's sputtering a bit. So whatever it might be, unfortunately for Montana, they just didn't have the right ingredients for the game.
100%. And then you look at obviously the 2 quarterback system. There was no really rhythm or flow with the offense at all with either guy, really. I mean, even after Logan 5's first drive, things were kind of weird, especially after his interception, and then running the ball. You know, it's another week where the Grizzlies 2.9 yards per carry, and that's huge. If they can't run the ball, they're showing they're really struggling with that, and they had problems with that against Cal Poly, too.
They did. It's a trend that is kind of puzzling when you consider all the talent that they have. And for Eli Gilman and Nick Osmo to combine for 14 carries, 29 yards, that's just mind-boggling. And 24 of them came on 1 run. So they were bottled up all game, and I think that the rest of the offense and the sputtering was a byproduct that they couldn't run the football, and that's something that obviously needs to get corrected. There's still plenty of the season left for Montana to try and get some momentum, potentially going into the playoffs, but they have to go back to the drawing board because the rushing attack is something they have to have in their offensive arsenal.
100%. We'll continue to break this one down here after the break. Coming up, head coach Bobby Hauck will chat with Riley, and later on in the show, we'll chat with center Cade Klimczak. Stick with us. We'll be right back here on the Grizzly Insider.
There's more coverage of the Grizzlies online anytime at montanasports.com. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
Welcome back. Tough one for Montana in the FCS Game of the Week. Two teams ranked in the top 8. Back and forth affair. UC Davis scores the final 17. Come out on top 30-14 here. Joined by head coach Bobby Houck. And coach, obviously you told us afterwards you put so much into this game and got ready for it. When it comes down to just your overall thoughts for it, you've had a little bit of time to think about it, but just kind of your take on the entire game.
Well, it was a really good game. You know, it was there for the taking. Both teams had a good shot at it. It was a tight game throughout the first half. We had a lead, they had a lead. We were down 6 at halftime, went and took the lead in the third quarter. So it was a good game, and unfortunately they were the team that went out and got the win.
Let's go to the first half to start things off, because the first drive, arguably maybe the best drive for the Grizzly offense.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, right down and scored to Junior Bergen. Just maybe the highlights from that and what you like. Obviously the first part of the game, you guys were dialed in, you scripted it out, and it was good to go.
Yeah, we made some good plays, fought for yards, moved the chains, all the things you're looking to do. It's a shame we couldn't do it throughout the game, and some of that credit goes to UC Davis, but the drive was great. Drove for the touchdown. He was wide open. Quarterback got it to him, and it was good to be up 7-0. Defense had just stopped him right out of the gate, and it was a good start to the game for us. Our guys were really ready to play. They were excited about the game, and it's always nice to get off to a good start.
And no question, scoring first at home, the crowd was behind it. They were ready to go. A couple false starts, in fact 4 false starts for UC Davis. Coming into the game, everyone was talking about the high-flying offenses, both ranked in the top 10 in pretty much every statistical category. Your thoughts just on how it became a defensive game a little bit, 13-7. Each team only scores once in the first half, and thought the Grizzly defense held up obviously well all game long, but just your thoughts on maybe the style of game maybe surprised some.
Well, as you and I talked during the week, I thought Davis' defense was terrific, and you know that's two really good defenses on the field against those offenses, so that tends to take its toll. You know, some of the field position things that happened in the game, they capitalized a little better than we did and got some points. That was probably the difference in the game.
When you talk about just the adjustments halftime, it was 13-7. It was right there, 6-point game. You guys are coming down the field and scoring. What did you like most about the drive to take the lead in the third quarter? Kaylee Iyayat, obviously an acrobatic flip into the end zone, let's say, on his third attempt.
The quarterback ran the ball really well in that drive. I think that gave us some spark. His running ability got us going. We'd had some drives down into that end of the field. We threw the interception earlier, which really cost us. But going down the field and getting those points, taking the lead, you know, we felt good about our chances at that point.
Let's talk about the rushing attack. UC Davis, you mentioned them up front, very big from a size standpoint. It was tough for the Grizzlies to run the football. Some of the trends maybe that you saw, and just how difficult is it for your offense to operate and be successful when it's harder to run the football?
Yeah, you know, neither team ran the ball particularly well in the game. That was sort of good for our defense, disappointing on the offensive side for us. We need to run it more successfully, but part of that is we have got to make them defend more of the field. They had a lot of eyes in there, and they were playing heavy in the box, and you know, some of those defensive looks aren't real productive to running it, but we've got to be persistent and get some of those yards.
When you talk about just the turnover front, obviously it was fruitful for Montana the last couple of weeks, having 6 turnovers, scoring 28 points off of. How devastating is it to try and overcome a 2-turnover deficit when you're playing in a top 7 game like that? You mentioned the red zone pick. That obviously turned the game a little bit, but just to overcome a 2-turnover deficit, how hard is that in a matchup like this?
The defense did a good job on the second one. You know, we turned it over and way back on our own end, and it was first play of a drive, and the defense stood up and did a pretty good job after that. The other one is we moved the ball down the field and then threw the interception in the end zone. That was points in that drive might have made a big difference in the game.
At that point, 10-7, UC Davis, Grizzly in the red zone. Coach, of course, now there's still plenty of the season left to go. Trying to regroup and getting ready to go for senior day this week. Kind of the plan of attack for you guys and being able to regroup and get that elusive 8th win of the season.
Yeah, it's a new week, obviously, and we need to approach it that way. We'll lick our wounds for a couple of days, and then we'll get back in the saddle, as they say in this part of the country, and go after it. And it's a big game for us this weekend. It
certainly is. Portland State comes to town. It's the regular season home finale for Montana. Of course, playoff games on the line late November, early December. We'll have Cade Klimczak with Kyle Hansen as we come back on the Grizzly Insider.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back into the Grizzly Insider. We're very excited to be joined by senior center Cade Klimczak. Cade, first of all, thank you so much for being here. And, just your time here as a Montana Grizzly, it's been 1 year, but man, it's been a memorable one so far. So again, thanks so much for joining us here, and just speak to what your time here at Montana has been so far.
Well, first off, appreciate you having me. And it's just been great. Got here on the 4th of July, actually. So a few weeks before camp started, and, right away, the O-linemen and all the guys on the team just kind of took me under their wing and showed me how to do it at Montana, and I've loved it here. The crowd's great, the atmosphere's great here, and been a huge fan.
You've been here for about 5 months, but man, you've packed a whole lot of living into your time here with the Grizzly football program. So you came here and obviously were playing guard, and then they switched you over to center a couple of games in. I guess speak to that, what it was like, kind of first of all, like you mentioned, acclimating to the team, kind of as a guard, and kind of getting used to a new program, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, we need you to play, the center and kind of direct traffic too.
Yeah. So going into it when I was getting recruited here, they said, hey, either guard or center. So kind of tried to prepare for both. Guard's a little easier. Just don't have to worry about snapping the ball, obviously making the calls. That was a little easier. So going into camp, first couple weeks and first couple games, actually, just playing guard, felt pretty good about it. And then got a text from O-line Coach Pavlik. He said, hey, how'd you feel about playing center? I said, well, let's do it. And then from there, just kind of transitioned to it, worked on getting the ball back there and with the snaps, and then kind of went from there making the calls, and kind of got to attribute that to the O-line, helping me along, making sure I got all the calls down, and kind of taking me under their wing, so they helped a ton.
When you're a new guy coming into a program like that, and even in such a short amount of time, they saw your impact and saw that you could take on such a high responsibility. Just what did that mean to you to kind of fill that role and step in?
Yeah, no, it meant a ton. Knowing that Coach Houck and Coach Pavlik and really just the whole staff trusted me, and knowing that I could come in and do the job, it means a lot, knowing that they have your back and can trust you to do it, so it means the world.
This group of guys, what's it been like working with them? Because I imagine transferring was probably a little, maybe nerve-wracking isn't quite the right word, but it's a new scene, right? Rockford, Michigan native, played at Central Michigan for 5 years, so you're going to a whole new territory here in Montana. So what was it? Was a little eye-opening doing that?
Yeah, for sure. My hometown's about an hour and 15 minutes away from the college I went to previously, so it was kind of like a local small town feel, and then having to make a 26-hour drive is a little different to Montana, but getting used to all this and getting to see it all and seeing it with the teammates and getting to see the process of how they do things here at Montana, it's been great. They've gotten me accustomed and acclimated to it pretty well, so got great things to say about it.
As you came here to Montana, just what stood out the most? And what did you know about the program before you came here?
Right. So when I was in the portal and I heard that, Coach Pavlik reached out and Keaton, the director of recruiting, reached out, that clicked in my mind because I knew that they had been to the national championship game before. So that piqued my interest already, and then coming on the visit and getting to see the stadium and the facilities, man, it was awesome, and I heard great things about the environment, the game day environment, and the atmosphere here, and kind of the tradition of Montana football. It was really intriguing. That's ultimately what sold me on it.
100%. It's fascinating kind of with your career because, you like you mentioned, kind of off camera, you studied mechanical engineering.
Yes, sir.
And that on top of a schedule for football, what was it like balancing those at Central Michigan?
Yeah.
Man, that's, a great degree to have, but the workload, you must just be like to be busy.
Yeah. I guess so. I guess I like punishing myself with homework. Yeah, no, it was a lot of late nights, a lot of cramming for exams, a lot of homework, a lot of studying. Yeah, just a grind day in and day out, having to wake up super early after only getting a little bit of sleep after studying the night before was a grind, and that definitely made me question it sometimes, but I'm glad I stuck with it.
For you, what's been the most special part of your college football career, both Central Michigan and here? Just what has stood out to you as you've accomplished this goal and been able to have such a successful and longevity career here?
Yeah. I think just, maybe just believing in myself. I walked on at my previous school. I was able to earn a scholarship from that, so that's something I'm really proud of. And then, having the staff here believe in me, to bring me in and make an impact, that's something I'm really proud of too. And being able to play here is something I take pride in.
Big game coming up, obviously, this next week for you guys against Portland State, and it's going to be Senior Day. So, for you, is that going to be kind of special to get honored like that? And, obviously, you guys are focused on the win, but that's going to be kind of cool to be recognized there, too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really cool thing. It's a really cool process, getting recognized for, the contributions that we made. So, yeah, it's going to be special. I'm going to be able to take it all in.
100%.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, and good luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
100%. Coming up, Riley will rejoin me after the break here on the Grizzly Insider.
Get social with Grizzly fans and follow MTN Sports on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back as Montana has to turn the page this week. It's senior day, the final home game of the regular season against Portland State. Kyle back up here to join me. And Kyle, your thoughts on Portland State, a team that obviously struggled to begin their season, but they're finding their way. Dangerous opponent as they always are, coming in here with pesky Bruce Barnum and a cast of others.
No kidding, and it's one of these teams, too, that's not quitting, right? Yeah. You know, their playoff hopes aren't going to be there this year, but last week against Idaho, they took them right to the very edge with Idaho. They've obviously done the same thing with UC Davis, a game they maybe won. You know, it came down to that last second play. And then obviously they beat Sac State, and Sac State has kind of folded it the rest of the season. So you look at Portland State is really still doing everything they can in their power, and it all starts with quarterback Dante Sacheret. So this could be an interesting game, and obviously we can't talk about it, but it's the game before the game, and that's what you want to see with Portland State. So the Grizz have to be sharp if they want to get it done.
No question. And Coach Howe previewed this matchup with a lot of intangibles around it.
Well, Portland State's played really well over the last month. They had a nightmare schedule to start the season. They've kind of righted the ship, and they've been playing really well. And then for us, you know, it's the last regular season game for our seniors, and we want to go out and enjoy the week, have fun, and then go fight our tails off and get our 8th win. That's the way to approach it this week.
Well, when looking at Portland State, Kyle, it's evident that it's the straw that stirs the drink. It's their quarterback, Dante Sacheret. He can do it all, and the Grizz are going to be on high alert.
And he's a guy the Grizzlies are very familiar with, right? Because he took the starting job in 2022. They've seen him twice now, which is kind of rare, right? You know, Portland State's this protected rival for the Grizzlies, so they see it every single year. But you've seen him now as one of these guys who's there year after year after year. And he's a guy that can hurt you in whatever facet. Obviously, he's their quarterback and leads them in passing, but he leads them in rushing, too. So he's a guy that could throw for 400. He's a guy that could run for 200. He can score 6 touchdowns. In a variety of ways. And like we mentioned, they don't quit Portland State right now. So I think he's the difference maker. If he has a huge game, Montana could have their hands full. So he's the guy they're going to want to bottle up. And it's going to be a weird game because there's a lot of emotions around the game this time of the year, right? We're middle of November. We're winding things down. It's the last guaranteed home game for the Grizzlies. And obviously going to be a big senior day for a very impactful senior class in Montana.
Absolutely. These guys that have invested in the program so long. We've talked about some milestones along the way. 50th game. Guys like Trevin Gradney, Ryan Tiro last week, Keelan White, and others. So yes, it will be nice to honor them, and a unique twist because Bruce Barnum on the other side, the head coach for Portland State, his son Cooper will be honored, of course, as one of those seniors. So just another twist with it, but just all in all to put a bow on this senior class of what they've meant. Obviously, this season hasn't went the way they wanted yet. Still plenty of games left to go, but last season, part of an impactful national championship run. It's been great to see, and they will honor them next week as we try and take a peek at the rest of the Big Sky Conference standings, Kyle, and see 5 teams still with a lot to play for with 2 weeks to go.
100%, and obviously a huge game next week, right? When you look at the game in Davis, California. Montana State playing Davis for what could be for the Big Sky Conference title, and then obviously you have Montana, NAU, and Idaho kind of still in that mix for a playoff spot as well. So these kind of 2 games left in the regular season, a lot of big games left on the slate, and we're just kind of winding down right now. Everybody's kind of looking at seeds, where people could go, things like that. So that game next week is going to determine a lot when you think of the way the season's going to wrap up and we head into the playoffs.
Absolutely. A lot of scenarios still on the table. The de facto Big Sky Championship game at Davis. High seeds will be on the line. You look at what's going over in Moscow right now. They have a chance maybe for an outside seed. Montana, if things go their way, the final 2 games of the season, they have a chance at an outside seed. So as always, Kyle, we're here in the middle of November, and a lot is still on the line. Should be a fun last couple of weeks.
100%. This is what we all live for, right? Big games coming up, and I'm excited to see how things shake out.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a good show so far. We'll wrap things up on the other side of the break.
Take coverage of the Grizz with you. Download our app for your favorite mobile device today. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Well, as we wrap things up here on the Grizzly Insider, another big week in store with the Montana Grizzlies home once again. So, Riley, what do you have on deck and kind of plan for the week leading up to Senior Day?
Absolutely. Another Inside the Den podcast out right now to get all caught up on everything going on with Grizzly Athletics. All the sports seem to be rocking. Soccer tournament wraps up. Volleyball gets a couple of wins there, but it's basketball on the road at Rocky Top, SEC country on Wednesday. But then we really start switching gears, getting ready for this final home game for Grizzly football this week. It's Senior Day, as we mentioned in the last segment. Montana is going to be tough obviously, Coach Houck told us afterwards, a couple days to regroup, but this team has to regroup. There's no other option, right, to get back, try and get win number 8 of the season, and that would be that magic number to clinch a playoff spot. So one goal for Montana that they can accomplish as they still continue on with the regular season.
100%. Another big week for the Montana Grizzlies. You can listen to Riley on the Grizzly Radio Network and the Montana Television Network will once again carry a broadcast when the Portland State Vikings are in town to take on the Montana Grizzlies with a 1 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Grizzly Insider, and we'll see you next week.